The breathing had stopped. In the dim quarantine room at the San Diego Conservation Institute, a 3-week-old panda cub lies motionless on sterile white cloth. Her chest no longer rises. Her milky, sightless eyes are fixed on a darkness she was born into and may never leave. 4 minutes ago, she was still fighting. Now there's just the hum of equipment and the sound of someone's hand hovering over fur that's barely started to grow in its signature black and white pattern. The cub's mouth is still slightly open, the shape of a cry that never came, a question she was too weak to finish asking. On the metal tray beside her, an empty syringe. A decision that was made, a choice that can't be unmade. But 3 hours earlier, something happened. Something the machines didn't catch. Something that might have meant everything or might have meant nothing at all. A single paw had reached out, toward a voice, toward warmth, toward a world she couldn't see but somehow knew was there. But to understand how we got here, we need to go back to where it all started. 6 weeks earlier, a panda cub was born during a January storm in San Diego. Her mother, Ming, was part of the captive breeding program, on loan from China, genetically valuable, hormonally monitored every 6 hours. The birth should have been routine. It wasn't. Ming held her newborn for 11 minutes, long enough for the cub to smell her mother, to feel her warmth, to understand safety for the first and last time. Then Ming set her down and walked away. It happens sometimes. Mothers know things we don't. They sense what we'll spend weeks proving with equipment and tests, that something is fundamentally wrong. When Ranger Sarah Mitchell arrived for the night shift, she found the cub alone, cold, making sounds that weren't quite cries, more like confusion, like asking a question in a language no one speaks. Sarah had worked wildlife rescue for 12 years. She'd seen rejection before, but when she lifted the cub into the light, when she looked into those eyes, she understood why Ming had walked away. The cub's eyes were clouded, unfocused, searching for light that would never come. Bilateral microphthalmia, the vet confirmed. Her optic nerves never fully developed. She's completely blind, will be for life. The cub weighed barely 4 ounces. She fit in Sarah's palm, trembling, turning her face toward the warmth of human hands because it was the only warmth left. Sarah named her Echo, because that's what she was, a sound bouncing back from darkness, searching for something to hold on to. Have you ever trusted your instincts and still been wrong? For 9 days, Echo survived. She learned the shape of the bottle, the routine of feeding times, the sound of Sarah's voice cutting through the constant noise of the nursery, 16 other cubs, ventilation systems, doors opening and closing every hour. She gained weight slowly, responded to touch, seemed to be fighting. Then on day 10, Echo stopped eating. Not dramatically, not with struggle. She just stopped trying. Her tiny body grew lighter. Her sounds grew quieter, as if she'd calculated the math of her own existence and decided the numbers didn't work. If you're already feeling something here, you don't need me to tell you what to do. Just stay with me. This story doesn't let go easily. By day 14, Echo had lost 18% of her body weight. Her heart rate was dropping. She wasn't sick. The tests proved that. She was simply choosing to fade, the way animals do when the world becomes too much. Sarah sat with her at 3 a.m., watching the monitors flatline into normal. No distress, no crisis, just surrender. Dr. James Porter found her there at dawn. He was the senior veterinarian, 58 years old, with a reputation for making the hard calls without flinching. "She's giving up," Sarah whispered. Porter studied Echo for a long moment. "Or she's screaming, and we're not listening." Porter wasn't the warm type. He'd signed euthanasia orders for dozens of animals, not from cruelty, but from reality. Resources were finite. Suffering was real. Sometimes mercy meant letting go. But he pulled Echo's charts and sat down. Minutes passed in silence. "Show me the feeding schedule," he finally said. Sarah pulled up the logs. Every 3 hours, standard protocol for newborns. And the nursery environment? Climate-controlled, constant monitoring, staff rotation every 4 hours. We follow CDC guidelines for how many people come through per shift. Sarah calculated. 12 to 15. Why? Porter rewound the overnight footage. Frame by frame, the pattern emerged. Echo turned away during busy hours. She tensed when doors opened. But during the 2 to 5 a.m. window, when the skeleton crew left her mostly alone, when the nursery was dark and quiet, she ate. Not much, but enough. She's not giving up, Porter said quietly. She's drowning. Every other sense she has is amplified just to survive, and we are keeping her in sensory hell. The protocol designed to save her, constant monitoring, round-the-clock care, optimal conditions, was killing her. Sarah went to Director Chen that afternoon, requested isolation space, modified care protocols, a chance. Chen was sympathetic, but firm. Sarah, we're a conservation facility with a federal mandate. This cub is blind. She can't be released, can't breed, can't contribute to species recovery goals. Our funding is tied to population sustainability metrics. She's 2 weeks old, which is exactly when these decisions should be made, before attachment clouds judgment. We have protocols for a reason. She's eating during quiet hours, in a facility that operates 24/7. You're asking me to restructure operations for a single genetically non-viable cub. I can't justify that to our board. I can't justify it to China. And honestly, Sarah, is it ethical to keep her alive just because we can? Sarah's jaw tightened. Is it ethical to kill something that's trying to live? Chen's expression softened. What kind of life? Permanent isolation? Complete dependency? Never knowing what she is? You're thinking like a rescuer, not a conservationist. 3 days. That was the extension Chen granted. 72 hours to prove Echo could thrive under current conditions. After that, the decision would be made. I need you to answer this honestly in the comments. Would you have stopped here or kept going, knowing what it could cost? That night, Porter helped Sarah move Echo, not to approved isolation that required permits, oversight, committee votes, to the old research cabin on the north edge of the property, unused since budget cuts in 2019. No monitoring equipment, no climate control, just silence, darkness that didn't matter to Echo, and one ranger betting her career on instinct. The first night, Echo didn't eat. The second night, she barely moved. On the third morning, Sarah awoke to a sound she'd never heard before. Echo vocalizing, not in distress, in curiosity. She was exploring the edges of her blanket with her paws, her nose, learning the dimensions of a world she could finally hear clearly. She had 2 choices, and both could get her killed. 48 hours in silence changed everything. Echo started gaining weight, steadily, measurably. She learned Sarah's footsteps, learned the shape of the cabin, started responding to voice cues, turning toward sounds, engaging with her environment in ways she never had in the nursery. She was mapping her world through sound and touch, building neural pathways that textbooks said wouldn't work for a panda. She was apting. Sarah documented everything: weight charts, behavioral observations, video evidence. She was building a case that couldn't be ignored. But on day 19, Porter arrived with the expression Sarah had learned to dread. Chen knows. How? Equipment checkout logs, power usage on a supposedly empty building. Someone noticed. Porter's voice dropped. There's an emergency ethics review tomorrow morning. And Sarah, I can't testify. I've got 2 junior researchers whose grant renewals I'm supervising. If I support unapproved protocol violations, their funding gets audited. 5 years of population genetics research gets jeopardized. Not evil, just afraid, just human, just trying to protect other lives he was responsible for. So I'm alone, Sarah said. I didn't say that. Porter pulled out a thumb drive. This is every documented case of sensory-impaired animals thriving in managed care. Blind dolphins,
Deaf elephants, a one-eyed tiger that lived 22 years. It's not protocol, but it's precedent. Use it. Sarah had 14 hours to build a defense strong enough to save Echo's life. She worked through the night, compiling data, drafting proposals, calculating cost projections. But at 3 a.m., while searching the Institute's archives for supporting evidence, she found something that made her blood cold. 16 years ago, there was another blind panda cub at this facility. Different mother, different circumstances. The director at the time had approved experimental isolation protocols. The cub had thrived for 6 months, gained weight, showed remarkable adaptation, was featured in a conservation journal as proof that disability wasn't a death sentence. Then funding auditors arrived, asked questions about resource allocation, cost-benefit analyses, measurable conservation outcomes.